All right, hello everyone. I am Lance Ippolito, and I'm joined with Alex Reid, who is one of the new traders within the company, but he's been around the financial markets for a while. We have a lot to get into today. We'll get into Alex's background. We'll get into his political beliefs, which I'm very
Uh-oh.
happy to be talking about today. We could get into, and more importantly, his trading style, what he enjoys about the financial markets, and really learning about his style of trading. So, Alex, welcome. Good to have you here.
Good to see you, Lance, as always. I like the fish painting in the back. Did you paint that yourself?
No, actually, my girlfriend's sister did. I have no artistic ability at all. Zilch.
Well,
Alex.
it's beautiful. So tell your girlfriend's sister that Alex really likes it.
Well, that's a hot market. The art market is booming. Art and wine, not just the stock market. So
Yep.
might be able to get into that. And if I will tell, if I had $1 for every girl I met in St. Pete, which is like the hippie part of Tampa,
Yeah.
who was an artist, I would probably be a gazillionaire right now because every Tinder profile I remember when I was dating was artist, artist, artist. And they were usually living in a van with their dog. And yeah,
That's how it goes. That's how it goes. Yeah,
yes. But
I'll indulge in some wine and paint sessions occasionally. My wife likes to go to those.
oh, the painting with the twist.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I'm not very good either though, so more musical.
No, well, some talent. I'm good at drinking, if that's considered talent. But
I think
uh,
it is. Some
Alex,
people are born with a liver or not.
Alex, where are you from, located, and how did you get into this crazy space of financial markets?
Well, yeah, I'm Virginia, born and raised, and currently in Virginia. I'm actually right outside of DC.
Oh,
So yeah, I've been here my whole life. I was born in Western Virginia, moved to Virginia Beach, and then came up here. Maybe like 7 years ago. So I've been here since then. And yeah, I've always been interested in the markets. One thing, always I liked about uh trading when, I started a couple of other businesses as well, but one thing that trading has in common is like uh asymmetric risk to reward, right? You can make a lot more than you put down. It's the same with, business. It's like you can potentially make a lot more than you put into it. It's harder to do that, and I never really wanted to be an employee my whole life. I just did not feel like the employee vibe was for me. So when I, just, slaving away for this exact same salary just didn't do it for me. So that's why I kind of went on my own path and struck out on my own to try and do something different, something with more upside, which trading is one of those avenues.
now let me ask you, and I have two questions for that because I think this is very important. What you said you didn't want to become an employee, and I was in that same boat. I worked for Citigroup Global Markets for a little bit, and I got stressed out. I was drinking every night. I was smoking pot. I was gaining weight, and I didn't want to do anything when I came home from work. It was a very, very miserable, but I was making good money. So I thought it
Mhm.
was that. So I have to ask, what was the worst job you had, uh, prior to becoming a trader? And then you mentioned risk versus reward. What is the worst loss you had? And can you give us some details on that?
Yeah, so the worst job I had, so I've actually been uh running my own businesses and trading for quite a while. So I actually have not had never really had much job experience. I did work at Trader Joe's briefly, which was I thought would be they all seem so happy when you go there. I thought I would be happy too, but after the second week of stocking cans of beans on the same shelf, I realized that I needed to do something dramatically different. And this was right after college. And so that's basically been running my own stuff since I got out of college after that Trader Joe's job. But that's not to say that the path has been roses and sunshine. I'd say I lost I'd say the worst loss I ever had, and it was really bad because of my limited uh capital at the time. I lost like $10,000 on Stellar,
Whoa.
the crypto.
Yes.
So like when this must have been back in 2017 or 2018, and Bitcoin, Ether, I mean, that was, taking over the world. I thought I had an edge. I read some Reddit threads about Stellar. I was like, well, this is going to be the next one. All these people who are, talking about uh making money on Bitcoin and Ether, they're going to be really jealous. And turns out that Stellar did not work out.
It was one of the pump shit coins, I take it.
It's not like Pepe or Fartcoin, but it's not one of the top five. It's not one of the top, marquee names. So it's kind of in the gray area. I think it was more hype than anything.
So let me ask you, speaking of the crypto, because I think obviously Bitcoin is kind of the main one, but I can't tell you the amount of friends I had who put their life savings in Bitcoin. And
Oof.
this is probably during COVID era, like around that time or even before. No, actually before, way before. And then got absolutely crushed because they never sold it, or they sold at the very, very bottom. And they weren't in Bitcoin, because Bitcoin, was still tens of thousands back then. It was in those smaller coins.
Mm-hmm.
And I had one buddy who sold his house for about, I think, 400,000 or so, which at the time, when you're in your mid 20s or so, it's a ton of money. And he was set. He was set. And I remember we met for a drink, and he's like, I think I'm just going to trade crypto full time.
Oh gosh.
And I remember this conversation because it wasn't just him. There was other people at the bar saying, yeah, when it crosses the MACD, I buy it. And when it goes below, it sells. It's so easy. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this is going to be the biggest bubble pop. Fast forward, he, was on margin two, lost all of it. And he's in his mid 30s or so, still living at home. So it is a very difficult, thankfully looking back, you could probably think, hey, thankfully it was only 10 grand or so, but it happened to so many people out there. And not a lot of people want to talk about it because it is kind of embarrassing, right?
Yeah, man. I'm happy I only had, at the time. I probably would have lost more if I had more money, but I just didn't. I was kept back by my account size from hurting myself too bad, which is sometimes a blessing in disguise. Crypto is weird, man. I would definitely not put my life savings into it. There's tons of talk about uh oh, it's going to be the next reserve currency when fiat, and it's like, dude, nobody knows, man. It's just a gamble. Like, you don't know. We don't even know. No, most people who trade crypto, like, what percentage of people you think who trade crypto, right, actually understand what the heck a Bitcoin even is? Like,
Well, and they're not even trading Bitcoin, which is like the only good one. They're trading the other coins that are just complete smoke and mirrors, basically.
yeah.
That's the crazy part. It's like you could trade Apple, Nvidia, Tesla, or you can trade some penny stock that's going to go bankrupt the next day. And it's like, why would you even do that? It's not the 90s anymore. Like, there's so much better opportunities out there. I think it's a lot of scams. I think it's the internet, and I think it's the influencers who
Hmm.
are either overseas or in Miami driving Ferraris and Lamborghinis saying, sign up for my crypto WhatsApp. And really, they're making money on the commissions of how much money you put in, and it's just complete fraud. So don't get involved in the crypto unless you're crazy risk and probably just doing the Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, I have some in, Bitcoin, just as like a small little part of my portfolio, just to see what happens. But that's not what I'm banking my future on.
Wise man. So Alex, what is your trading style kind of right now? Your kind of thesis and Can you share some more light on, what you like to look for and what you like to do in the markets?
Yeah. So, you know, really, I would say I'm a momentum trader, though I think all trading is momentum trading. This is what I tell people. It's like, I know that it's kind of a cop out because, like, literally, if there was no momentum, there wouldn't be any candlesticks on your chart.
Right.
It's all momentum. All the indicators, whatever you use, RSI, whatever, MACD, it's all just trying to figure out which way the stock is going up or down. But like, I like the technical trading stuff. More swing trades. I do a little bit of intraday stuff. So I do the opening range breakout every day with on SPY. And that's for anybody who doesn't know. That's you basically plot the first 30 minutes. You get a breakout above. You get a breakout below. Yeah, you take a call going above. You take a put going below. I do that, and then other than that, I really honestly I use like just moving averages and one thing I do like and I do really use a lot is the anchored volume profile on TradingView. I'm not sure if it's on Thinkorswim or not,
No,
but
it's not.
I think that's a really cool tool because it helps people show it helps get people like where on the price axis is the volumetric support, whether usually volumes below the chart, but this is on the y axis, so you can see like, oh, at $200 Apple has a ton of volume, maybe that's a support or resistance line.
And one thing that we spoke about not too long ago was kind of insider trading and some of these executives and people within the company buying shares of stock and then pairing that with an option and everything. What are your thoughts or views on not only political insiders trading stocks, but also people within companies trading stocks? And how is this even legal? And is there anything anyone can do to stop it? Or is it just, the way it is and that's the way it's going to be?
Well, it is all legal. It's crazy that it is legal. I think politicians should be relegated to only owning index funds. I don't think they should be able to trade individual stocks. I don't think you should be able to ban them from trading at all, but like only, VXX or something, or not VXX. What are the index funds? The Vanguard funds or
Yeah, the
whatever.
vanguards or mutual
Yeah.
funds. Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that. But insider trading is really good. I like insider trading. I like studying insider trading because the thing is it is legal. People don't understand that it's like, Martha Stewart, we all insider trading, Martha Stewart, right? We all remember that story. I feel like most people's exposure to it came through that. You got to be fairly stupid, I think, to get popped for, I mean, allegedly, right? Trading with stuff that the general public might not know about, right? Because there are loopholes. If you, as long as you file this Form 4, right,
Right.
you can trade as much stock as you want. You just have to disclose it within 48 hours.
Yep.
Now, I think actually for right now, right? So we were all like looking at what are these tariffs going to do? Like we were watching Intel, this morning, or to see what they would say on their earnings report about how it's going to affect their business, these tariffs, and it's going to not great. They're not saying it's, but like we're just waiting for CNBC to publish the headline. Um, but these executives, right, these vice presidents, these CEOs, chief financial, they know how all this stuff is going to affect their businesses, and they knew it before the tariffs were even announced, right? They know what might be coming. They're looking at it, talking about it in the boardroom meetings.
Right.
And so that's like right now, especially insider trading is always a powerful signal, I think. But right now, when we're all trying to figure out how is it going to affect, individual tickers out there, uh, if you can see what these guys are doing and girls are doing with their own money, man, it's a really good edge.
And I look at it this way: is you have the politicians who are making X amount of money, and then they're leaving office or a couple years into office. Like I saw AOC, she makes, I don't know, what, 150, 180,000 a year, but yet she's worth like 5 million already. She was a
Mm-hmm.
bartender before that in New York, which, and no offense, but she's probably just making cash, and it's not, cost of living's insane. But also you see people not only within companies and politicians, but even people, around them. And for example, I was watching the All In podcast with what is it, Ben Shapiro, and he was like, "Yeah, I knew the tariff news was coming on
Oh
Liberation
yeah.
Day," and he goes, "I called my investment manager and I said, hey, let's take money out of stocks and buy bonds," and it's like that was, he said it publicly, because he's within the know, he talks to people, so nothing illegal about it, he has every right to do it, but the people who think this does not happen and who are thinking, my Bernie Sanders and AOC are, fighting the billionaires, but they're driving in private jets, and having 5 or 6 staffers with them at all time, who do you think pays for it, right? It's not them on their $150,000 salaries. So to think these people aren't getting involved in markets, who aren't having meetings with CEOs of companies, and CEOs of companies are, talking to the politicians and the lawmakers. I mean, and then they're donating millions and millions of dollars. You have to be just living under a rock to think this does not happen. And there's nothing, in my opinion, that's going to change with this. And why would it? If you're giving me, Alex, millions of dollars each year, am I really going to say, oh no, let me charge Alex with some crimes and then I'm not getting my money? Are you crazy? I know your kids, I know your family, we go to dinner and everything. You come to my charity fundraisers. It's it happens, and I think it will happen
Yeah.
forever.
I totally agree with you. So I actually worked on Capitol Hill for a while.
Oh,
Yeah, I interned there during college, and I'll tell you, man, it is wild. These politicians are, they're basically actors.
yes,
So they don't. You'd be surprised at how little they actually know about anything, because all their staffers, their legislative assistants, they're the people meeting with folks. They're the ones writing the bills. They're the ones, doing the committee stuff. And then really the congressman or congresswoman will just put their signature on it.
yes,
So, you think of, I think if you really think of politicians more like actors, and being pulled like little act, right? There's a funder, there's a studio behind them telling them what to say and
yes.
when to say it, and how to say it. One thing I do think that would be interesting. I honestly, that this is a counter argument, against what I think a lot of people want. I think we should actually pay Congress people more. I think they should actually be really well compensated, so they don't actually feel the need to take the dole, basically. I don't know how that would work, but yeah, the thing is like it's weird how Congress always votes for their own salary increases, right? I mean, it's like there's misaligned incentives here that I think if they made more money, maybe they could get rid of.
Yeah, I think about it because you have teachers who are working literally all day, and then sometimes at home, doing and having to usually spend out of pocket for supplies and stuff like that for the kids, and they never get pay increases. They're looked down upon in society now, but yet you look at politicians, they're riding private jets, securities, making bank outside of their salaries, healthcare, pension, everything like that. And now they're treated as celebrities, right?
Mm-hmm.
You look at the TikTok of Jasmine Crockett, she's got a new accent. She's doing dances and stuff. I mean, they're stars. And then they're bragging how much money they make through fundraising. And you look at someone who's like a teacher, which I feel like 10, 20 years ago in society, it was like a very honorable career. And now it's like no one wants to become a teacher because they'll live poor. They got to rent a 1 bedroom apartment, or marry a guy or a girl with hopefully makes good money. But a politician, it's like, you know what, I don't know what to do with my 4-year degree I got from this college, but I can act very good, or I can please a certain number of folks who've given me a ton of money. And like you said, they're literally reading a teleprompter. They're putting on an accent, or they're putting on a smile and a charm and saying, how can I be a good politician? And most of the time they don't know crap about what's really happening, not only in their district, but just about economics or so. So I do think it's good that we're seeing kind of Silicon Valley folks, real smart folks get involved in the current administration, but you're still having, you know, politicians just running corrupt and corrupt and corrupt, from the Dalton mayor. That was a funny story with Tiffany, to Jasmine Crockett, to
Yeah.
AOC. I mean, there's just so much corruption, and it's just funny that we're in America and we just say, yeah, it's we know, and there's nothing anyone does to stop it.
Yeah, man, I don't know. I say more teachers and less politicians. That's the slogan. But
I agree.
I think I'm happy that tech is getting involved, sort of. I mean, unless, we all become their blood boys and and they end up just, turning us into like an AI robotic Minority Report state. But I think I'm happy so far with this, what the administration is doing. I think the Doge thing is is good. Where I am, I know a lot of people actually who are impacted, which is, some people I know are impacted by the Doge cuts. You never want the people to
Right.
be affected by it, but the thing is it's like I do know a lot of other people who are like, yeah, I took a nap under my desk at work for like 4 hours today, and it's like, come on, man.
So I worked from 14 or 15 till, I don't know, maybe 2021, early college or college, through college, at the school board. So we did after school summer programs, tutoring, all that jazz, basically working for the school board and stuff. And the amount of, we'll say, corruption, and the amount of laziness, and the uh lack of skill. I mean, we were getting paid, I think I was getting paid 5.75 an hour, so starting off and stuff. But the misuse of funds and just how badly ran, and this is, from the lowest of the lowest level, it was just mind-blowing. Or you had some people saying, hey, I can't work today because then I don't get my benefits from the government, or I'll make over my limit. I mean, it was insane. So
Mhm.
at the same time, I see both sides. You feel sorry for the people who got cut, but then it's like, you work 4 hours a day, and 2 hours of the day you watch YouTube videos on your phone. Maybe you're not the best use of taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, well, and also, with the government can't actually create like value, right? It's
No.
anything it creates is just its value subtractive from the private economy. So yeah, like, you know, maybe if we could cut government, you wouldn't have to pay so much money for childcare because the economy's better. There's more business, there's more economic activity because there's government sector, and then there's private sector. The government only extracts. Everything it extracts from the private sector is either being taken out or has to be made up somehow. Like whether that's with cutting wages, whether that's with whatever, more hours. But you need you do need a federal government, but it doesn't need to be as bloated as it is. That's, I think, for certain.
Alex, we'll start wrapping up now, but I want to get two things before we go. One, what is your view on the market going forward? And then what do you think happens as we start getting into the next election cycle? Who's your pick to win, or who's your pick really to run and win? And then what do you see going forward from the markets? S&P just got out of correction territory. Are you bullish, bearish? Are you doomsday? And then who do you think is upcoming on the ticket?
Trump 2028, baby. The hats are already printed.
I saw that. I saw that.
um I think Vance is the only really, sitting in the wings candidate for 2028. I think that if he wins, that he can potentially 8, potentially 12 years
Yeah.
of the MAGA side of the administration.
Do you think, though, he's a little bit more center leaning than the current Republican Party? Because I feel like he is. I feel like he's a little bit center. I don't want to say the left, but I feel like he's kind of right in the middle where he could get some Democrats to vote for him.
Interesting. I think he's less divisive than Trump for certain.
Right.
I mean, so I think he could be a crossover candidate. I mean, the dude has a good story. I don't know if you've ever read Hillbilly
Yes.
Elegy, but he literally lived the
Very.
American dream, man. It's like the dude is the embodiment of the American dream. Um, so I think, we'll see. I think, I don't know how good. I mean, he actually, we do know how good. He really did well during the debates. He's a good up in front politician, on the screens. He's very well spoken and articulate. The question is he emotion? Is he, nobody can get anybody riled up like Trump can, whether you're a supporter or a hater.
AOC can.
AOC can, yeah. So Bernie's not going to run. He's too
He's too
old.
old now.
But AOC, I think, could do it. And that's honestly the scariest thing to me because I think she might have a chance if that's the case.
I do too. And I think if we want to talk about the great financial reset, which as traders might not be horrible for us, because we could, benefit on both sides, up or down market. But I do think if she starts building popularity, and let's say she is the top runner, which I think she can, and to be honest, I don't know who else the Democrats have. I think she could cause a great financial reset because she wants to hurt the billionaires so bad to where we could see a 10, 20, 30, 40% drop in the stock market in a month or two. And I don't think that's a bad thing personally. I think, we can argue about policies and stuff like that from her back and forth. But I do think it would be the biggest shakeup in government that we would probably ever see if she does start getting momentum to get elected, which I do think there's probably a high probability she is.
Yeah, and we have midterms, and then I guess after the midterms are over, then we'll be gearing up for the regular election, the main election. So we'll see, man. I mean, talking about the financial reset, 40% drop. I know that we've exited correction territory there. I'm still bearish. I feel like we're gonna go down to 4,300 SPX, 4,300 or
Oh,
so.
wow.
I think if we get, I mean, I would be happy to get down there, honestly, because I think it's a good buying opportunity. I don't know, do you want to buy at 6,000 at the all-time high? It's very tough to do that when everything seems so overvalued. And I think there's still throughout the summer, as these tariffs take effect. Look, I think that there's a lot of I don't nobody's a macro guy. I don't like when people say they're a macro guy because it's like, dude, you don't understand what's
Right.
even going on the macro. Dude, these are like in secret meeting rooms across the world. Like you're not a macro guy. And I'm not trying to be one either. I do just think there's a lot of risk with the trade war with China. They don't seem to want to back down. Trump doesn't seem to want to back down. Wars, you're on the Europe, Russia, Ukraine, and I just think like there's risks throughout the summer. After the summer, I think maybe we can get a firmer idea where the market is, but I'm still bearish throughout, through August.
My thing is if we lower rates, money becomes cheap, stocks make new all-time highs, right? I think that lower rates, I think we can. And I think there's still a lot of people on the fence. So I think we can make new highs and then Trump will boast about it. And because, he loves to talk about the stock market. Then as we start getting into the next election cycle, and then we start seeing who's the front runners, which I think she will be. As we get towards that election and she starts pulling well, then I think we could have the biggest rug pull because we have low rates that we shouldn't have had. We have stocks at record highs, and then we just have complete uncertainty on the election and of her policies because I don't think anyone really knows, her policies. And I think it could just be the worst bull trap in history. So I would like to see the market go down from here and shake out because it almost seems too easy this last week had the market going up. Like it literally just seems like this is getting a little crazy. And once I start seeing the bears start saying, all right, the VIX is 20, it's time to buy, then I know to probably start initiating a lot of shorts. But I still have seen people on the fence, and that's why the market, is going higher right now. So we'll see. I mean, we can't predict the future, but I do think it is a very fun and interesting time to be involved in the stock market.
Yeah. So what do you think? How low could it drop if we do drop?
I think we could get a 40% haircut.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be complete doomsday. And
Yeah.
then think about the story too. If the market even starts doing bad during as we approach election cycle, so this would be, obviously a little bit of time out there, then the Dems can say, look, Trump tanked the stock market, and then AOC is pulling well, and then they say, he crushed the economy. I'll bring it. Then they can run on the economy. So they have social issues and economy. I mean, it. I'm just worried that we go to low rates right off the get go from here, and then equity prices just go flying. I think short term it's going to be, yay, this is great, but long term, I think I feel like Bernanke, we're kicking the can down the road, and I just I don't think we should. And I think all this tariff stuff is starting to go on the back burner, which
It seems like it, doesn't it?
right, like you don't hear about it that often. Kind of even like the Elon Musk stuff, you don't hear about him often. They're
No.
trying to mute a lot of stuff, but nothing's really gotten done.
Yeah. Yeah. They were coming out with the flurry. It was like that flood the zone strategy, right? Steve Bannon's flood the zone strategy
Yes,
at the
yes.
first couple months. Now it's like crickets. I'm like refreshing X. I'm like, come on, give me something to get excited slash enraged about, you know?
I know. I'm reading like zero hedge articles, and it's like, all right, well, there's nothing anymore. It's like,
Yeah.
that's it. Like some Ukraine news.
Yeah.
It's like old news nowadays. But anywho, Alex, thank you for jumping on. Alex,
Thank you.
post your, well, if I could get my assistant to post your link to your Telegram in the description below. Everyone have a fantastic rest of your day.
See you.